Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have week 7 of my 12 weeks of Christmas series. So let's jump right in. So I am going to make a circle-shaped card, and this is actually kind of funny because if you guys saw the card that I made, I think it was week 2 of this series. I made this circle card, which was super cute. And I decided to try to cut my circle base out of an A2 folded card, which you can absolutely do. I've seen Christina Warner and whatnot do it, so you can absolutely do it. But this is probably a lot easier. And one of my lovely subscribers, Marcy, sent me like a demo version of how she makes her circle bases. She sent it to my PO box with a Halloween card. And like kind of just told me a lot easier way to do it, which is awesome. So I had to try that. So we're going to do it this way this time. So you saw me run my circle dies through my switch, and the circles are about 4 1/4 around. And then I cut the next circle size of this really pretty glitter cardstock. And then you're here going to see me score it about 1/2 inch in to create the score line so that my card can open and close. I don't know what I was thinking when I made that last one, but this is obviously way easier because then you don't have to fight with the card base trying to go through the whatever your die cutting machine is. Of course, there's no wrong way to make a card at the end of the day. As long as it works and you're happy, that's really all that matters. But this is definitely a lot easier to work with. And this card, I'm going to have a couple of stumbling blocks with it. I really wanted to double stamp it and I messed that up something awful. So I'm going to show you as we get in here what happened. But for now, we've kind of created the circle base, and I've also cut that glitter cardstock to go as the mat because you guys know, if you've followed me for a little bit, I love a mat. And then I have the Simon Says Stamp Outline Ornaments background stamp. This came out last year, I believe, and I didn't get to use it because sometimes I forget that I've purchased something and then it sits here, and then I'm going through my stash to come up with fun ideas for this series, and then I see something, and I'm like, holy, how did I not use this? Because this is stunning. So I am going to Copic color it, and I'm going to be the first one to admit that I am a little rusty with my Copic markers. I get so excited about distress products that I actually forget that I have Copic markers. So I'm the first guy to admit that this is going to look a little bit not blended well, but I think that it turns out pretty cool, and we'll kind of get there in the end, but I do have some stumbling blocks with this. So then I took the next biggest circle die, or the next size circle die down from my glittered mat. This is just going to create that slight border. And I'm going to zoom in. I have had this request while Copic coloring that I can be zoomed in so you guys can see it a little easier. So hopefully this is zoomed enough. If it isn't, let me know. And I can always edit it differently later, but hopefully this kind of gives you a better look at the actual coloring. So I am going to bring in quite a few different colors, and obviously this is going to be very non-traditional. I do tend towards non-traditional Copic coloring, or colors in general, actually. I tend towards non-traditional Copic colors just because that's my preference. But you could, of course, do this in a traditional color palette. I just don't tend to go that way. And you did see me make a circle of where the color needed to be so that when I could die cut it out with that circle die, I would know what areas needed to be colors and what didn't. So for my Copic coloring, you saw me bring in a black. That was the 110 marker. It is like the special black marker. And then for my first color blend, I have V12, V15, and V17, which is a purple blend. And this is one of my favorite purple blends. And I have the original Copics here. I ordered them by mistake when I first was purchasing my Copics. And I've traded out the nibs for this, so they actually have a more flexible nib in them now instead of the chisel tip, which you can do. Not all of them do. You're going to see when I bring in my teal colors that they don't have that tip because I have to replace quite a few of them. So I'm slowly replacing them as I go. So only really a handful because they're a bit expensive, the nibs. This is like a brush nib specially made for the original markers. And then you'll see I also have a bunch of I don't think I used any chows in this. But I have a couple of different types of the Copic markers. And you can see that I'm rusty on my blending. It's not going to be as smooth as I would have kind of liked it to be, but that's a practice situation and I haven't been practicing, so they're going to be a bit, the blending is going to be a bit rough. And then for my second blend, here is my more pink palette. I have RV14, RV17, and RV19. And you can kind of see that I like to lay a wash of my lightest color down. I go in then with my mid-tone and then my darkest tone, back to my mid-tone, and then to my lightest tone. This is probably the easiest way to get the most control over where your shading is going to be. But as I said, I'm a little out of practice, so I'm probably not, the best person to take shading tips from. But that is what I understand from my practice. If you really like Copic coloring and you want to kind of check out a card maker, if you haven't heard of her before, her name is Kelly Latavola. It's Kelly Taylor now, she got married, but she does some phenomenal Copic coloring, and she has a lot of tutorials on her channel. So if that's something you're really interested in, she is phenomenal. So you can go and give her a look and see what she's up to. But she has very realistic shading in her Copic coloring, so she would be a really good person to kind of learn from if that's something you're looking for. And then I used for my kind of tealy blue color here, I have BG23, BG45, and BG49. Again, I Copic color the same way every time. And here you see that I have two of the original markers that don't have those brush tips. So I actually used the chiseled nib for the larger area of that one ornament. There's no wrong way to do it though. And I mean, you could literally use anything. I'm using Copics because I thought that would be a really fun way to color this, but totally up to you. And then for my yellows, I'm using Y06, Y08, and Y19. And again, here are two of the original markers that I'm using the chisel nib for, just because they cover more area quicker. And then I can use the bullet nib if I need to do a smaller area. But I have quite a mix. I have Chow, I have these ones, I have the original ones, I have, quite a few of them. And then here I'm going to do the little toppers, and I chose to go in grays. So I'm going to use N1, N3, and N5. Those are the neutral grays. You could go for a more metallic look than what I'm going for. I didn't, simply because I didn't have silver glitter cardstock underneath. So I wasn't really trying to make it look silver necessarily, but just add some shading to it. And then here you're going to see I have a different colored panel because I had every intention of stamping it twice. And it stamped off badly enough that I was not happy with it. So off camera, I colored a new one, and then I am just going to die cut that circle out. So you're going to see that's slightly a different area. I didn't quite put my circle in the exact same place, but I still think it turned out quite pretty, so it works. It's just slightly different area than I had intended. And then I brought in my white gel pen, and this is just going to add a couple of details randomly to the area. I mean, you can see that there are some shine marks on some of the ornaments that the artist has obviously drawn in. That's great. I kind of enhance those here in a second, but I like to add my own. I find that the white gel pen really adds some life to your colored illustration. I think that it just really finishes it. So it's kind of one of my favorite steps after coloring something, just to add a little more life back into the image. And there's no real rhyme or reason as to where I add anything. It's just mostly personal preference and kind of how it feels in the moment, which I know sounds kind of silly, but that's kind of how I work with it. So that's kind of just what I aim for. So there's no, set rules to that, unless of course you're going for realistic shading and highlights, then that's a completely different thing. But I generally don't. I just kind of like to do what makes me happy, and then that's kind of where I go. And then of course, because I cannot resist glitter ever, I had to bring in my clear glitter pen, and I'm just kind of adding it to random areas across the card. I will hold it up at the end so you can kind of get a look at that glitter, hopefully, and see how beautiful it is. Be careful adding it on top of the white gel pen. It will eat it. So if you put glitter kind of over top of the white gel pen and rub it around a little bit, it'll take all your white gel pen off. Generally, I would have done this first, but I didn't. So, it's one of those things where I'm just a little more aware of where the white gel pen is and trying really hard not to add the glitter on top. And then I just kind of added it to every ornament, just one little section. I'd kind of add a little glitter so that it made it a little bit different, adds a little more dimension into the image, especially when I hold it up in the light and you can kind of enjoy it. And then this is where I decided I was going to add a sentiment. So I'm going to cut out the Merry Christmas sentiment. This is from Simon Says Stamp. And of course, Amber had to come and check out what I was doing, so she's going to visit. And in a minute here, you're going to see my husband bring me a cup of tea as well. So pretty exciting. I got a visitor and a fresh cup of tea from my lovely husband. I had worked 10 hours this day and had to come home and finish up my card so that I could go to bed to go back to work in the morning. So he very kindly brought me a lovely cup of tea. You're going to see it pop in on the side here in a second. So thank you very much, my love. Much appreciated. And I just cut the sentiment out of the circle, the center of that circle, so that I wasn't wasting that glitter cardstock, just because I thought it would look really pretty. And you could, of course, cut this out of like a vellum and put it on top, but I kind of felt like this would be really pretty on the inside of the card and give you something shimmery and shiny on the inside as well. And that was just kind of something fun. So that's kind of why I decided to do it this way. I mean, you don't need to add a sentiment. This card's stunning on its own, and then you can just write your greeting or message on the inside. But I thought this would be a really fun way to kind of add a little bit of something extra on the inside. And I hadn't used this die yet, so I kind of thought it would be a fun Christmas greeting to add on the inside. So you see me just poking out all the little bits. And then I'm going to bring in the Simon Says stamp. I think they're the micro dot sheets. I got it in a kit a little while ago and I hadn't used it yet. So I thought this would be the perfect time to try this out. And it worked phenomenally. Now, normally, had I been thinking, I would have put some kind of adhesive on the back before I die cut it. But I wasn't sure what I was going to do for a sentiment, so I didn't do that. And this was just a really great way to cut that out, to add adhesive to the die cuts that I already have that are quite delicate. So I thought this was really neat, and it was really easy to use. So personally, I've never used micro dot sheets. This was a new product to me, which is one of the reasons I love the Simon Says stamp kit so much. Although, yes, I am still 4 months behind, and I'm pretty sure my November kit will be here any minute, and December's kit was released today, and oh boy, I'm behind. I'm working on it. You guys are going to be funny. It's going to be like a slew of kit videos out of nowhere. You're just going to get like July kit, August kit, September kit, October kit, November kit. But yes, I am 4 months behind at the moment, but I will catch up eventually. And then I'm just going to adhere my layers together. I used 2 glues here. You don't need to. I used my Nuvo Deluxe in this video and my Bearly Art. You don't need either. You don't need 2 glues. I mean, whatever glue, use your favorite. I do prefer a liquid glue simply because I like the time to kind of shift things around while I'm kind of trying to get my alignment. But you could, of course, use anything, or foam tape and add a little more dimension to this. That would have been really cool too. I just decided not to because I wanted to go to bed. So I kind of kept it simple at this point. But I am going to add a couple of little gems to this. This is another product that is new to me. It's the Spellbinders Opal Self-Adhesive Gems. I thought they were really pretty and thought they'd be really fun to use. So you're going to see me kind of play around with where I want them to go. And then I'm going to change my mind after I stop recording anyway. So I don't know. Again, the gem placement is one of those things where I kind of tend to put them where I feel like they're going to look good. Like, again, there's no real plan in mind other than the uneven numbers, which is always kind of my preference, and visual triangles. But other than that, I kind of just put them where they might look good. And I do have a tendency towards top left to bottom right. That's kind of what I end up doing most of the time. But there's no real right or wrong way to add gems. I think that personally, the more sparkle, the better. But that's kind of my way of looking at it. But yeah, I think that this card turned out really pretty, even though I had some stumbles along the way. But I'd love to know what you guys think, because that's always probably my favorite thing. I do read and respond to all the comments if you leave them for me. So if you have anything you want to tell me, or you want to say anything to me, I will read it and I will respond once I get a chance. So there is the card as a close-up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love it if you'd leave me a comment, leave me a like, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and every Monday up until Christmas will be the 12 Weeks of Christmas series. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.